Chris Keevil is the CEO of Versos AI, a company building rights cleared, high integrity video data and chain of custody systems for AI training. With that, Chris, we're thrilled to have you at the event today and very much looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for having me. And it's a pleasure to bring this new idea to your audience. I will say the work that we are doing is an activity that probably didn't exist in the commercial marketplace 18, 24 months ago. And the actual technical implementation that Versos has built is even newer than that and unique within the market. So I'll explain a bit about the business we're in, and then I'll describe what the Versos platform does uniquely within that. Folks are aware, I think, of the role that ChatGPT and other large language models have come to play in our everyday life and in commercial life. That really represents the first generation of AI tools that were trained on text. And that's why they're referred to as large language models. And those large language models have garnered from the text that they have trained on reasoning and logic and an understanding of our world. But the next generation of models are referred to as world models, and this is a race toward what is thought of as artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And those world models need denser data sources. So the world models train on video rather than language. And a simple analogy would be to think about the way a baby learns, both visually in the world around them and from the language that they learn from their mother and father and siblings, family and friends around them. And that's how the brain develops. AI models are very much the same. So the models can't go out into the world to understand the known world. The world has to come to the models, and the way that that happens is through video. So now picture, if you will, an industry where there are dozens, maybe a few hundred companies in the world building these foundational models. And that's at one end of the market. And at the other end of the market is very widely distributed, maybe even you could think of as infinitely distributed video sources that those AI labs want to get access to. So Versos sits in the middle of those AI labs and the archives that the AI labs want to train on. So we work with those content owners, or we would sometimes refer to them as rights holders, to deliver structured video training data. Now, the idea of structuring the video is really key to all of this. So a video file itself is unstructured, and you can imagine that in a library of videos that a studio might have in their archive, they might have very limited data to index those videos. Think file name as a way to index or provide some limited structure to a video library. But the AI models need much more metadata to train on. They want to know not just a file name. They want to know how long is the file, what's the language within this video, what is the geography it was shot at, a description of what's inside the video. And that's at a file level. They want quite extensive metadata attached. Increasingly, though, the models want to break that video asset up into smaller assets. Think of it as scenes within a show, or frames within a video, or even objects within a frame, or within a sports game. They want to separate the gameplay from non-gameplay, and then within the gameplay segments, they want to describe what's happening in that play. So this is what we refer to as a video intelligence that drills deeper and deeper down into the asset to provide deeper and deeper metadata that describes what's happening there. So that's because those AI models want to train on large volumes of video asset data. They may want thousands of hours of full episode TV shows because they want to understand character development, narrative story arcs, what this video is doing, what this show is doing at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And they might want to understand the file in total. And so they'll say, for example, we want 10,000 hours of nature and wildlife documentary, or 10,000 hours of TV episodic drama. So those are the broad category asks that buyers might be looking for. On the other end of the spectrum, though, is that they want very specific actions or interactions that would exist in any genre of video, but they need a lot of that. So they might want 1,000 hours of hands handling fabric or tying shoes or crushing a can, or they might want video assets that demonstrate gravity, objects falling to the earth and crashing on the ground, or objects falling from a hand and breaking on a table. They want these very specific physical world videos to learn about. Now you see where there's kind of a business challenge, which is very few buyers at the top looking to access thousands of hours of hands handling fabric, as the example that I gave. You need to search across hundreds of thousands of hours of video to find 1,000 hours of hands handling fabric. So you need to amass a very large inventory of available assets that are pre-processed or prepared, enriched with metadata in order to search across hundreds of thousands of hours to find those very bespoke, very specific scene level training data sets. And so Versos plays a number of roles here. We work with the supply side of this market, the license holders, library owners of these assets, and we allow them to build those libraries into trainable data sets within their own collection, but also to connect various libraries so that they can search, the buyers, can search across libraries to build their, to use my example again, 1,000 hours of hands handling fabric. And so we provide an aggregation and network effect, if you will, across libraries, and we allow those libraries to get their data prepared. The other important part that we play is the monetization of those assets. So the AI labs pay per hour or per clip or per minute for the training sets, and through Versos and brokers that participate in our network, we can monetize those archived assets for the library owner and distribute the money that's generated across various assets. And then the final thing I'll touch on is the ability to attach a C2PA certificate, or what is referred to as a manifest, that is a certificate of ownership, a certificate of provenance that establishes who the rights holder is of every asset in this library, and it tracks where those assets move through the supply chain. So this becomes increasingly important in a world where certain jurisdictions, Europe, for example, is mandating that all AI models used in Europe commercially must have been trained on what they refer to as ethically sourced data. To demonstrate that the models were trained on ethically sourced data, there needs to be a registry of provenance that captures all the certificate ownership for the assets that go into that model. So that's a lot to unpack, Michael. I went through it, I think, fairly quickly, but I think that summarizes the overall nature of the business. It's communicated here in this little diagram very simply. So video libraries are transformed into frame and scene intelligence on their way to become licensed data sets, transforming unstructured video into searchable, licensable data for AI model development.
Very interesting. And I think that there are quite a few applications for the technology. And I think obviously with AI being such a fast paced and quickly moving space, many more to be discovered, I'm sure. Presented here, I know a lot of different individuals listening will probably have some questions. So we'll have, a Q&A panel coming up after this segment where Chris will be fielding any questions that people have. So if you're listening in live, you have a Q&A box right in front of you. Type your questions in for Chris into that Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get to as many of those as we can during the live Q&A session. But from this end, can you share some of the early adopters of this technology? What space you're seeing some of these organizations in and how they're using it?
Well, let me talk about both sides of the market. First, I will deal with the license, the rights holders. These are These are often independent studios. So these are small, medium businesses from literally all over the world. And those studio owners might have 1,000 hours or 5,000 hours, 10,000 hours of video archives. If they've been producing content in film and television, entertainment based content for 10 or 15 years, they've amassed a significant library of their own. And they've discovered that there is a new revenue source for that otherwise dormant asset. So that would be one kind of customer profile. Another would be broadcasters. So we are in discussions with broadcasters, have been active with other broadcasters who have think about news footage for a news broadcaster. Part of that might be the anchor coverage, so what we would think of as the talking head coverage of the news broadcaster, but more importantly is the real life news that they're covering: the flood, the fire, military action, protest in the streets, whatever you might find in the news, and that real life video coverage is very important for model trainers. Another example would be streamers, folks who are aggregators of third party studio content for distribution and broadcast on air. And our largest and earliest customer was Curiosity Stream, which is a factual documentary streaming company, and they have hundreds of thousands of hours in their library, and they've made a significant investment in this line of business, and they're getting tremendous growth in revenue and profitability as a result.
Yeah, and I think we only have to look as far as some of the major streaming platforms out there to see the potential.
Right.
So I think it really opens up a lot of opportunities for many that may have been on the sidelines up until now to really jump in and become part of the party. Now, are there other portions of the technology that are alive yet or coming that will actually integrate with payment mechanisms for converting views to dollars, if that's part of the strategy?
It's part of our roadmap, so it is part of the strategy. It's not been built into the platform yet, but the idea is that with Versos, we will be able to fully automate the entire workflow. So you can imagine an AI lab looking to assemble a data set across 5 libraries, to be able to log in, sample those 4 libraries for content, build a data set assembled from the 4 libraries, ship the data set from the source storage, which would be inside a cloud storage bucket like AWS, to their own storage. So explore, review, assemble a data set, and then to ship that data set. And the point that you make, Michael, is and then make payment on the platform and have the platform distribute the money immediately to the various, in this case, four library owners. So we see a fully integrated workflow from the buy and the sell all the way through to funds management and what you would call revenue settlement in the platform, essentially a billing system built into Versos.
Yeah, and it really is the right solution for the time because there are so many organizations optimized for SEO, but not, you know, AIO and, figuring out how to get in front of the AI search. So really providing this structure for organizing all of this content and making it ready for these AI models to discover is you may be at the cutting edge or a little bit of ahead of the cutting edge, but it's clearly where the market is heading. So I think really very, very interesting. Well, I appreciate the fantastic presentation. For everyone that is listening live, type your questions into the Q&A box, and I feel like we have quite a few questions that'll be coming in, and we'll get to those at the next Q&A panel coming up in just a few minutes.